Okay, so at this point, you've had an opportunity to analyze text. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at translating text, which is another one of our language processing features that we have. So in order to do this, we do need the Azure AI translator service to be able to perform this. And the benefit of doing this is the fact that it allows us to do language detection, be able to identify, okay, is the language being spoken or written, English or Spanish or French or German or whatever it may be. But not only does it allow us to detect the language, it also allows us to do translation. So we can take language from one language, let's say English, and we can translate it to, let's say, German. So one-to-one or one-to-many translation services. We can also do transliteration. Now, translation and transliteration are a little bit different. Translation basically takes language from one group, let's say French, and converts it into, let's say, English, but keeps the meaning of it. So it translates the meaning of it. Transliteration, on the other hand, is basically designed to take one type of text or script and convert it to another one. So to give you an example here, if we look at our image, we have a Japanese here. And what we can do is we can go in there, and this would be the Japanese text. Transliteration would then translate it into a form that we can read. Let's say someone that's English, speaks English, could read, or Spanish, or whatever it may be. So translation translates the meaning. Transliteration translates the text from one form to another. So those are some of the neat little things that we can do with this, which you'll see in our demonstration here shortly. So to give you an example here of some of the code, the first thing you have to define is the API endpoint. Now, the endpoint that you're seeing here is actually a global endpoint, which means it can be translated from basically any one of Microsoft's locations. And in this case here, we specify api.cognitive.microsofttranslator.com, detect. We specify the API version, and then the text that we want to translate or transliterate. In this example here, we're just doing a detection. So based off of this is the text that we're submitting into the model. And then over here on the right, you can see, okay, it identified that as Japanese in this case, or JA, which of course is the ISO 639-1 standard that we use for naming conventions. In the second example here, you can see that we're actually performing a translation service. So here we're performing the detect operation. Here we're going to do a translate operation. And this is a REST request that we're doing here. And we're going to translate it from Japanese to English and to French in this example here. So this would be the Japanese text. And remember, translation means that we're going to convert the meaning into something that someone else can understand in a different language. So in our output, once we've submitted it into the model, the translation will say, okay, in Japanese, this means hello. Okay, so in English, it's hello. And because we did say also that we want to translate it into French, it came back and said the French equivalent to it would be bonjour. So as you can see here, this is a great tool for translating. And we can do this near real time, or we can do it asynchronously if we need to. In our last example here, we're going to look at transliteration. So notice here we're making a REST call here, and we're going to use transliterate in this case. Here's the text. Now remember, with transliteration, what we're doing is we're literally just converting the text from one form to another. So in this example here, we've got some Japanese text. And in this case here, the language is Japanese, and we're going to convert it into Latin text, or Latin words in this case, or Latin type scripting, I should say. So in our example here, you'll see, okay, so we're going to take this Japanese text here, and we're going to convert it into Latin text, and the equivalent Latin text would be konnichiwa. So these are examples of how you can do detection, translation, and transliteration of your of your text. You can just submit it directly into the model. So for translation, there are some options that we have. One of those things is to include the alignment here. So notice here we're making a call, REST call to using translate. The text that we're going to translate is smart services. We submit that into our model. On the response, what we're going to get here is we're going to notice here we're going to take it from English into another language here. And we're going to include the alignment. So here's what the output would look like. So let's kind of break this down. So the first word we have is smart, okay? So what it's telling us in the output, first of all, is that the term smart services, which we have here, is actually converted into text, as you can see here. So you can see the conversion happening. Now, because I also included an alignment option variable for true, what this does is it takes and it says basically, okay, the first word is going to be translated over here, but exactly what characters in here corresponds to this. So in here, this is the output for the word smart. What this is saying is that the first 5 digits, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, the first 5 digits of the text, which we have as smart, is then converted to the first 2 digits in the translation. So what this means in this example is that smart, which is 4 digits, is actually represented by these two symbols here, in this case, Japanese language. The second thing we have is the word services, okay? So in here it tells me, okay, so the next characters 6 through 13, which is the word services, when it's translated, is equivalent to character 2 and 3 in our translation. So that means these two characters right here are equivalent to the word services, and these two characters right here are equivalent to the word smart. And you may want to do this if you have an application that needs to realign things, then this is a great way to help that application realign it in your code. Another thing you can do is you can say, okay, instead of alignment, let's look at, give me the total length of the sentence. So how many characters are there total? So we're going to take the word hello world, we're going to feed it into our REST request. And what's going to end up happening here is, okay, hello world is translated, which you see right here, into French, because we did say take it from English to French. And it's going to tell me the total sentence length. So the total sentence length that we're translating is 12 characters. So that's what you see right here. Now, the word or the phrase hello world in French is salut tout le monde, which is actually a total of 20 characters. So it tells me right here, that it took 20 characters to translate it. So hello world is 12 characters. Once we've translated it into French, it ends up being 20 total characters. So that is your sentence length. And then, of course, you can go in and you can mask or mark profanity. So in our example here, JSON is blank great, okay? So in our translation, because we've enabled the profanity action be marked, the response is east or A, and then we essentially use asterisks to hide the profane word in this case, which is this word right here. And then we provide the rest of it. And of course, because I did specify that it should go from English to German, the response has been translated into German. So these are options that you have. And there are a few other options that you have. You can refer back to the Microsoft Learn site to see those additional details here. Now, in most cases, the built-in translation models will work for general terms. But if for some reason you have, let's say, customized terms in your organization, let's say you're a pharmaceutical company and some of the terms in one language equate to something else in a different language, but the model can't detect it by default, or you have any custom words. In that case, you do have the ability to deploy a custom translation solution, which you see here. And then you would actually define the mapping between the terms. So that is another option that you have. So translation is a great tool that we can use. Feel free to play around in your lab environments, deploy the translation service, and do some demo testing to see how that works.